The hammer slammed down with a finality that made Anna's heart stop. Sold to the gentleman in the black hat for $300. Anna Delacroix stood on the wooden platform, her chin raised despite the humiliation burning through her veins. Like wildfire, the debt collectors had taken everything her father's ranch. The cattle, even the family Bible. But this was the cruelest blow of all. Indentured servitude to pay off what remained of Papa's gambling debts. The crowd of rough men began to disperse, their leering faces disappearing into the dusty afternoon of Whiskey Creek. Only one man remained. Tall and broad-shouldered, his weathered face hidden beneath the brim of his black Stetson. He approached the platform with measured steps, his spurs jingling softly against the wooden boards. "Miss Delacroix," he said, his voice low and gravelly, tinged with an accent she couldn't place. "I'm Luke Maveridge." She expected him to grab her arm, to drag her away like a piece of property. Instead, he extended his hand to help her down from the platform. Anna hesitated, studying his face. There was something in his steel-gray eyes that wasn't predatory or cruel, something that almost looked like regret. "I won't run," she said quietly, accepting his assistance. "I honor my father's debts, even if he never honored much else." Nodded, then surprised her by removing his hat and running a hand through his dark hair. "Ma'am, I need you to understand something right from the start. I didn't come here looking to buy myself a servant." Anna frowned, confusion replacing some of her fear. "Then why?" "Because Jeremiah Kincaid was here." Luke's jaw tightened as he spoke the name. "And I've seen what happens to women who end up working his claims. Death would be kinder." The name sent ice through Anna's veins. Everyone in 3 counties knew about Kincaid's mining operation, and the women who went to work there were never seen again. She'd heard whispered stories around town stories that made decent women cross themselves and hurry past. "So what happens to me now?" she asked, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. Luke settled his hat back on his head, casting his face. "In shadow once more? That depends on you, Miss Delacroix. I've got a spread about 10 miles north of here. Good land, clean water, decent house. Could use help with the cooking and cleaning, and I pay fair wages. But—" he paused, seeming to weigh his words carefully. "If you're willing to hear me out, I might have a different proposition entirely." Anna's breath caught. There was something in his tone, something that made her pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "I'm listening, Mr. Maveridge." Luke glanced around at the remaining stragglers from the auction, then stepped closer to her, close enough that she could smell leather and sage on his clothes. "Not here. Too many ears. Will you come with me to my ranch? I give you my word, as a gentleman, that you'll be safe." Anna had precious few options, and Luke Maveridge seemed to be the best of them. She nodded slowly. "Good." He gestured toward a magnificent black stallion tied to the hitching post. "Can you ride?" "Better than most men in this god-forsaken town," Anna replied, some of her old spirit returning. For the first time since she'd met him, Luke Maveridge smiled. It transformed his entire face, making him look younger and infinitely more dangerous. To her peace of mind, "Then let's go home, Miss Delacroix." The ride to Luke's ranch passed in companionable silence, the landscape gradually changing from the dusty streets of Whiskey Creek to rolling hills dotted with cattle. Anna found herself stealing glances at the man riding beside her, noting the easy way he sat his horse and the careful attention he paid to their surroundings. The ranch house came into view as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. A sturdy two-story structure with a wraparound porch and smoke curling from the chimney. It was modest, but well-maintained, with flower boxes beneath the windows and a vegetable garden flourishing behind a white picket fence. "It's beautiful," Anna breathed, surprised by the obvious care that had gone into maintaining the property. Luke dismounted and moved to help her down, his hands strong and sure around her waist. "My wife had a way with growing things," he said quietly. "I've tried to keep it up the way she would have wanted." Wife. The word hit Anna like a physical blow, though she couldn't understand why. Of course a man like Luke would be married. She'd been foolish to let her imagination run wild during the ride. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said formally, stepping away from him. "Consumption took her 2 winters ago," Luke replied, leading the horses toward the barn. along with our son. The pain in his voice was so raw that Anna felt tears prick her eyes. She followed him into the barn, watching as he tended to the animals with gentle efficiency. "Mr. Maveridge," she said carefully. "About this proposition you mentioned, Luke," he corrected, hanging up the saddles. "And yes, we need to talk about that." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Anna, I call you Anna.
What?
I'm about to suggest might shock you." She nodded, her heart hammering against her ribs. Luke took a deep breath. "I need a wife." Anna blinked, certain she'd misheard. "I beg your pardon?" "Not for the reasons you might think," he continued quickly, color rising in his cheeks. "It's complicated, but there are legal issues with my land claim. The territorial government is changing the laws, and unmarried men are losing their holdings. I've got 60 days to either marry or lose everything I've worked for." Anna stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. "And you're suggesting that I... marry me?" The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. "It would be a business arrangement, nothing more. Would have a home, safety, and your freedom. I'd have the legal protection I need to keep my ranch." "But we don't even know each other," Anna protested, even as part of her mind was already considering the possibilities. "No, we don't," Luke agreed. "But we have time to remedy that, if you're willing." And Anna, he stepped closer, his gray eyes intense. "I meant what I said about your freedom. This would be a marriage in name only," unless he stopped himself, shaking his head. "Unless you decided you wanted something different." Anna felt heat bloom in her cheeks. There was something in the way he looked at her that made her feel beautiful, desired, despite the circumstances that had brought them together. "Why me?" she asked. "Why not find someone else? Someone who actually wants to marry you?" Luke's smile was rueful. "Because the kind of women who would marry a stranger for legal convenience aren't the kind I'd want sharing my home. Because ... He hesitated, then continued with quiet honesty. "Because when I saw you up on that platform today, something in your eyes reminded me that there are still people in this world worth fighting for." Anna's breath caught at the raw sincerity in his voice. She thought of her alternative servitude, poverty, or worse, if men like Kincaid had their way. What would people say, she asked. That Luke Maveridge finally found himself a woman brave. "Enough to take him on," Luke replied with a grin that made her stomach flutter. "Anna, I know it's asking a lot, but will you at least think about it?" She looked around the barn, noting the care with which everything was maintained, the obvious prosperity of the operation. Then she looked back at Luke, taking in his honest face and the hope he was trying so hard to hide. "I'll think about it," she promised. "That's all I can ask for," Luke said. "Come on, let me show you the house. Mrs. Calloway from town has been cooking for me, but she only comes 3 times a week. You must be hungry." As they walked toward the house, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that her entire life was about to change forever. Anna woke to the smell of coffee and bacon.
Ow.
Drifting through the guest room door, pale morning light filtered through lace curtains that had obviously been chosen by a woman's hand. And for a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back the auction, Luke's proposal, the sleepless night. She'd spent wrestling with a decision that seemed impossible either way. She dressed quickly and made her way to the kitchen, where she found Luke standing at the stove, his shirt sleeves rolled up and his dark hair still mussed from sleep. He looked younger in the morning light, less imposing, though no less attractive. "Morning," he said, glancing up with a smile. "Hope you like your eggs scrambled." "You didn't have to cook for me," Anna protested, though the gesture warmed her. More than she cared to admit. Seemed the least I could do, considering. Luke filled 2 plates and set them on the small kitchen table. "Besides, I enjoy cooking. Bethany, my wife, she tried to teach me before." He trailed off, pain flickering. Across his features, Anna sat down across from him, studying his face. "Tell me about her." Luke's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Why? Because if I'm going to consider marrying you, I need to understand what I'd be stepping into." "You loved her, yes."
God.
The word was simple, honest. "We grew up together, married young. She was sunshine. and laughter and everything good in this world. He set down his fork, meeting Anna's eyes. But she's gone, Anna, and I'm not looking for someone to replace her or pretend she never existed. What are you looking for? Luke was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the rolling pasture beyond. A partner, I suppose. Someone who understands that this life is hard but worth living. Romantic gestures, but who might be content with honest work and mutual respect. Anna felt something twist in her chest. Disappointment. Perhaps, though she couldn't say why. And if someday you want more than that, then we'd cross that bridge. When we came to it, Luke's gray eyes held hers steadily. Anna, I won't lie to you. I find you beautiful. Any man would. But I'm not going to pressure you into anything you don't want. He'd flooded Anna's cheeks at his frank admission. She took a bite of eggs, too. Buy herself time to think. How long do I have to decide? As long as you need. But ... Luke's jaw tightened. The land office sent notice that they'll be reviewing all claims starting next month. Unmarried men, without established homesteads, are being relocated to make room for families. So we're talking about weeks, not months. Yes, Anna set down her fork, her appetite gone. The weight of the decision pressed down on her like a physical thing. Marry a stranger and gain security, but sacrifice any hope of a love match or refuse, and face an uncertain future with no money and no family. I'd like to see more of the ranch today, she said finally. I'm going to make this place my home. I should know what I'm agreeing to. Luke's face lit up with something that looked dangerously like hope. Of course, there's plenty to show you. They spent the morning writing the boundaries of his property, Luke pointing out landmarks and explaining his plans for expanding the herd. Anna found herself impressed by his knowledge and dedication. This wasn't a man who'd inherited wealth. Every acre had been earned through hard work and careful planning. The creek runs year-round, Luke was saying as they dismounted near a grove of cottonwoods. Good water, protected from the worst of the winter winds. Anna wandered to the water's edge, enjoying the peaceful sound of running water. When she turned back, she found Luke watching her with an expression she couldn't read. What is it? She asked. Nothing, just ... double quotes. He shook his head, smiling ruefully.
Ass.
Bethany used to love this spot. She'd pack picnic lunches and insist we eat by the creek even when there was work to be done. A pang of something that felt uncomfortably like jealousy shot through Anna. She sounds wonderful. She was. Luke moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. But Anna, if you marry me, I don't want you to feel like you're living in her shadow. This would be your home, your life. You'd have every right to change things, make them your own. Anna looked up at him, surprised by the intensity in his voice. Even if I wanted to paint the parlor purple and plant roses where the vegetable garden is? Luke's laugh was rich and warm. Even then, though I might draw the line at purple. A moment Anna could almost imagine it, a life here with this complicated, honorable man. Quiet mornings and shared work, maybe even children someday if they grew to care for each other. It wasn't the passionate romance she'd dreamed of as a girl, but it was more than she'd dared hope for since her father's death. Luke, she said quietly, if I said yes, what would the wedding be like? His expression grew serious, simple, quiet, just us and the preacher, unless you wanted something different. Anna nodded slowly. The idea of walking down an aisle in a white dress with no family to witness it made her chest ache. But the alternative was worse. I need one more day to think, she said. Take all the time you need, Luke replied. But something in his eyes suggested that time was a luxury neither of them could afford. The decision came to Anna in the pre-dawn darkness of her second night at Luke's ranch. She'd been lying awake, listening to the sounds of the house settling around her. When she heard it, the soft murmur of Luke's voice drifting from the room next door. At first she thought he might have a visitor, but as she listened more carefully, she realized he was talking to himself, or rather, to someone who wasn't there. I know this isn't what we planned, Bethany. His voice was barely audible through the thin walls. But I can't lose this place. It's all we built together, all that's left of the dreams we shared. Anna felt like an intruder, listening to such private grief, but she couldn't make herself stop. She's nothing like you, Luke continued, his voice thick with emotion. She's stronger, I think. Had to be, to survive what she's been through. And she's got fire in her eyes that reminds me there's still beauty in this world, even when everything else has gone to hell. Anna pressed her hand to her mouth to stifle a gasp. He was talking about her. I don't know if I can love again, Luke's voice grew quieter still, but I think maybe Anna Delacroix might be worth the risk of trying. Anna slipped from her bed and moved to the window, staring out at the star-scattered sky. Luke Maveridge was a good man caught in an impossible situation, just as she was a good woman with nowhere else to turn, but more than that. She was beginning to suspect that beneath their practical arrangement lay the seeds of something deeper. The next morning, Yana found Luke in the barn, mucking out stalls with methodical efficiency. He looked up when she entered, and she saw the question in his eyes before he could voice it. Yes, she said simply. Luke straightened slowly, the pitchfork forgotten in his hands. Yes, I'll marry you, Luke Maveridge. For 60 days or 60 years, whatever fate has in store for us. The smile that spread across Luke's face was like sunrise after a long, cold night. He set down the pitchfork and crossed to her in 3 quick strides, stopping just short of reaching for her.
Anna, I think you
won't regret this, I swear to you. I know I won't, Anna replied, surprised by her own certainty, because you're a man of your word, and because... She hesitated, then plunged ahead, because I heard you talking to her last night. To Bethany. Color flooded Luke's face. Anna, I didn't mean for you to. I'm not angry, she interrupted quickly. I'm grateful. You told me everything I needed to know about the kind of man you are. Luke studied her face, searching for any sign of doubt or recrimination. Finding none, he slowly reached out and took her hands in his. His palms were rough from honest work, warm and steady. When? Anna asked. Tomorrow, if you're willing? Pastor Mackenzie can perform the ceremony at the church in town, nothing fancy, but... Luke's grip on her hands tightened. Anna, I want you to know that even though this started as a business arrangement, I intend to honor the vows I make to you. For better or worse, in sickness and in health, all of it. Anna felt tears prick her eyes at the solemnity in his voice. I do too. Luke lifted one of her hands to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. The gesture was so tender, so unexpectedly romantic, that Anna felt her heart skip a beat. We should ride to town, Luke said, releasing her hands with obvious reluctance. You'll need a dress, and I should speak to Pastor Mackenzie about the arrangements. Luke, Anna said as they prepared to leave the barn. After tomorrow, where will I sleep? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was quite ready to voice. Luke's jaw tightened, and Anna could see him wrestling with the answer. Wherever you want to, he said finally. The guest room will always be yours if you need it, but Anna... He turned to face her fully, his gray eyes intense. I hope someday you'll want to share more than just a name with me. Anna's breath caught at the raw honesty in his voice. Without thinking, she stepped closer to him, close enough to see the flecks of silver in his eyes. Someday, she whispered, I think I might. Luke's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb, brushing across her skin with infinite gentleness. For a moment, Anna thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pressed his forehead against hers, breathing her in. Tomorrow, he murmured, you'll be Anna Maveridge. Tomorrow, she agreed, I'll be your wife. The word hung between them like a promise, fragile and precious, and full of possibilities neither of them had dared to imagine, just days before. As they rode toward town to make the final preparations, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that she was riding toward not just a marriage of convenience, but toward something that might, with time and tenderness, bloom into the kind of love stories were written about. Anna stood before the cracked mirror in the hotel, room above Murphy's General Store, hardly recognizing the woman staring back at her. The dress she'd chosen was simple but elegant, deep blue silk, with tiny pearl buttons marching up the front, and delicate lace at the collar and cuffs. Mrs. Murphy had insisted it brought out the color of her eyes, and Anna had to admit the older. Woman was right. You look beautiful, dear, Mrs. Murphy said from behind her, adjusting the small white hat perched atop Anna's dark hair. That Luke Mavridge is a lucky man. Anna's stomach fluttered with nerves and something else, anticipation. Perhaps, or hope. Do you think this is foolish, Mrs. Murphy? Marrying a man I've known for 3 days? The older woman's reflection appeared beside Anna's in the mirror, her weathered face kind but serious. Child, I've lived in this territory for 40 years, seen all kinds of marriages. Some that started with grand passion burned out within a season. Others that began as practical arrangements grew into love that lasted until death parted them. She placed a gentle hand on Anna's shoulder. It's not how a marriage starts that matters. It's what you both choose to make of it. Soft knock. At the door interrupted them. Mrs. Murphy opened it to reveal Pastor Mackenzie, a portly man with kind eyes and a graying beard. "Miss Delacroix," he said with a warm smile, "are you ready?" Anna took a deep breath, smoothing the silk of her skirt. "As ready as I'll ever be." The walk to the small church felt both endless and over too quickly. Anna's heart hammered against her ribs as Pastor Mackenzie escorted her through the simple wooden doors. Afternoon sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, painting rainbow patterns across the rough-hewn pews. Luke stood at the altar, and Anna's breath caught at the sight of him. He'd traded his usual work clothes for a dark suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and lean waist. His hair was freshly washed and combed back, though one stubborn lock still fell across his forehead. When he saw her, his gray eyes lit up with something that looked remarkably like wonder. "Anna," he breathed as she approached, "you're beautiful." Shh. Heat flooded her cheeks, but she managed to smile. "You clean up pretty well yourself, Mr. Mavridge."
Pastor.
Mackenzie cleared his throat gently. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was simple, traditional, but as Anna listened to Luke repeat his vows in that low, gravelly voice, the words took on weight and meaning she hadn't expected. When it came time for her to respond, she found herself looking directly into his eyes, speaking from the heart rather than merely reciting words. "I, Anna Delacroix, take you, Luke Mavridge, to be my husband, to honor and cherish, in good times and bad, for as long as we both shall live." "Do you have rings?" Pastor Mackenzie asked. Anna shook her head, expecting Luke to do the same. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Anna's eyes widened as he opened it to reveal a simple gold band set with a single perfect sapphire. "It was my grandmother's," Luke said quietly, his eyes never leaving Anna's face. "If you'll have it." Anna's throat tightened with emotion. This was supposed to be a business arrangement, a marriage of convenience. But the careful way Luke slipped the ring onto her finger, the tenderness in his touch suggested something deeper. "It's perfect," she whispered, meaning it. "By the power vested in me, by the territorial government," Pastor Mackenzie intoned, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Luke, you may kiss your bride." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Luke stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame Anna's face. She could see uncertainty in his eyes, a question that needed answering. Anna rose up on her toes, closing the distance between them. The kiss was soft, tentative at first, then deeper as Anna melted against him. Luke's arms came around her waist, holding her close. And Anna felt something shift inside her chest, a wall she hadn't even realized she'd built beginning to crumble. When they broke apart, Luke rested his forehead against hers, both of them breathing unsteadily. "Hello, Mrs. Mavridge," he murmured, and Anna's heart did a little skip at the sound of her new name. "Hello, husband," she replied, testing the word on her tongue. The ride back to the ranch passed in companionable silence, but Anna was acutely aware of the man beside her, her husband. The ring on her finger caught the afternoon light, a tangible reminder that everything had changed. As they approached the house, Anna noticed something different. Lanterns had been hung from the porch railings, and smoke was rising from the chimney despite the warm afternoon. "Luke," Anna said slowly, "did you arrange something?" Luke's smile was mysterious. "A man should properly welcome his bride home, don't you think?" Anna's heart fluttered as Luke helped her down from the wagon. Whatever happened next, whatever their marriage became, she was beginning to believe that Luke Mavridge was a man worth taking a chance on. As they walked toward the house hand in hand, Anna caught the scent of something delicious drifting from the kitchen windows. Her new life as Mrs. Anna Mavridge was about to begin, and for the first time in months, she felt genuinely hopeful about the future. Anna stopped in the doorway of the house, her breath catching in surprise. The simple main room had been transformed. Candles flickered on every surface, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The dining table was set with fine china and crystal that must have been wedding gifts from Luke's first marriage, and the aroma of roasted beef and fresh bread filled the air. "Luke," Anna whispered, "you did all this?" "Had some help," Luke admitted, color rising in his cheeks. "Mrs. Calloway came by while we were in town. Seems word travels fast around here that Luke Mavridge finally got himself hitched." Into the room, trailing her fingers along the polished wood of the table, someone had even found wildflowers, Indian paintbrush, and prairie roses to create a simple but beautiful centerpiece. "It's wonderful," she said, turning to find Luke watching her with an expression she was beginning to recognize, hope mixed with uncertainty. As if he wasn't quite sure what to expect from her, Anna, Luke said carefully, "I know this is all happening very fast. If you need time to adjust, to get used to the idea of being married." Anna studied his face, seeing the genuine concern there. This man who had saved her from a terrible fate, who had offered her not just shelter but partnership, who had spent his afternoon arranging a wedding feast despite the practical nature of their union. "What are you saying, Luke?" "I'm saying that just because we're married doesn't mean anything has to change between us. Not until you're ready, if you're ever ready." Luke ran a hand through his hair, disturbing the careful styling. "I don't want you to feel pressured or obligated to." Anna crossed to him in 3 quick steps and pressed her fingers to his lips, silencing his worried words. Luke's eyes widened at her touch, and she could feel his breath hitch beneath her fingertips. "Luke Mavridge," she said softly, "for a man who runs a successful ranch and convinced a woman to marry him in less than a week, you certainly do worry." A lot. Luke's hands came up to cover hers, his calloused palms warm against her skin. "Anna, I know what I agreed to," Anna interrupted gently. "And I know what I'm choosing now." She stepped closer until she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "I'm choosing to have dinner with my husband. I'm choosing to see what happens when 2 practical people stop being quite so practical." Something kindled in Luke's gray eyes, hunger, desire, hope. "Are you sure?" Instead of answering with words, Anna rose up on her toes and kissed him. This time there was nothing tentative about it. Luke responded immediately, his arms coming around her waist to pull her against him. Anna could taste the promise on his lips, feel the carefully controlled strength in his embrace. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Luke's forehead rested against hers, his eyes closed as if he were memorizing the moment. "The dinner will get cold," Anna whispered, though she made no move to step away from him. "Let it," Luke replied, his voice rough with emotion. "Anna, are you certain about this? About us?" Anna looked up at this complicated man who had become her husband, a man haunted by loss, but brave enough to hope again, strong enough to be gentle, practical enough to be romantic when it mattered. "I'm certain that I want to try," she said. "Honestly, I'm certain that what's between us deserves a chance to grow into something real." Luke's smile was radiant. "Then let's start with dinner, Mrs. Mavridge. We have the rest of our lives to figure out everything else." They sat down to the feast Mrs. Calloway had prepared, talking and laughing as the candles burned lower. Anna found herself genuinely enjoying Luke's company, his dry humor, his thoughtful questions about her life before the auction, his stories about building the ranch from nothing. "What's your favorite time of day here?" Anna asked, as they shared a slice of apple pie that tasted like heaven. "Dawn," Luke answered without hesitation. "When the mist rises off the creek and the cattle are just starting to stir, everything's quiet and peaceful, full of possibility." He paused, studying her face in the candlelight. "What about you?" "Don't know yet," Anna admitted. "But I'm looking forward to finding out." Luke reached across the table to take her hand, his thumb brushing over the sapphire ring. "Anna, I want you to know something. Whatever happens between us, whatever we become to each other, I'm grateful. You saved my ranch, but more than that, you reminded me that life is worth living. Anna felt tears prick her eyes at the sincerity. In his voice, Luke, ... Ah, I know I can't promise you romantic love right away, Luke continued. But I can promise you honesty, respect, and partnership. And maybe, if we're both willing to be patient, something deeper might grow between us.
Anna!
Squeezed his hand, her heart full of possibilities she hadn't dared imagine just a week ago. I think it already is, she said softly. Luke's eyes widened, and then he was standing, moving around the table to pull her into his arms. This time when he kissed her, Anna could taste the future on his lips, uncertain perhaps, but bright with promise. Welcome home, Mrs. Maveridge, Luke whispered against her ear. It's good to be home, Mr. Maveridge, Anna replied. I meant every word. 6 months later, Anna stood at the kitchen window, watching Luke work with a wild Mustang in the corral. The horse was a beautiful black stallion with fire in his eyes and rebellion in every line of his body, not unlike the man trying to gentle him. Easy boy. Luke's voice carried on the morning breeze. Nobody's trying to break you. Just want to be partners. Anna smiled at the familiar words. Luke had said something similar to her on their wedding night when she'd finally worked up the courage to move from the guest room to the master bedroom they now shared. He'd been patient, gentle, letting her set the pace as they'd discovered each other in the intimate darkness. The transformation of their marriage from practical arrangement to something deeper hadn't happened overnight. It had been built in quiet moments, shared glances over morning coffee, Luke's strong hands helping her down from the wagon after trips to town, Anna singing softly while she worked in Bethany's garden that had become her own. The first time, Luke had told her he loved her. It was during a thunderstorm that had them both worried about the cattle. Anna had been pacing the kitchen, wringing her hands, when Luke had caught her and pulled her into his arms. I love you, he'd said fiercely, as if the words had been torn from him. God help me, Anna. I love you so much it terrifies me. Anna had kissed him then, with all the passion she'd been keeping carefully contained, and they'd made love by firelight while the storm raged outside. Now, watching him work with infinite patience to earn the stallion's trust, Anna felt the familiar flutter in her stomach that had been growing stronger each morning for the past 2 weeks. She pressed a hand to her still flat belly, hardly daring to believe what her body was telling her. Anna, Luke's voice from behind her made her jump. She turned to find him standing in the doorway, sweat-stained and dusty, but smiling. Sure. Watching me work again? I like watching you work, Anna admitted, moving into his arms, despite his protests about being dirty. You have a gift with horses. And stubborn women, apparently. Luke laughed, the sound rich and warm, the Mustangs coming along. Give me another week and he'll be eating out of my hand, like his owner did with a certain auctioned woman, Anna teased. That, Luke said, pressing a kiss to her temple, took considerably longer than a week. Anna pulled back to study his face, the face she'd grown to love more each day, with its weathered lines and kind eyes, and the smile that was reserved just for her. Luke, she said carefully, how would you feel about adding another member to our family? Luke's brow furrowed in confusion. Another horse? Anna, we've got more than we can handle already with the Mustang. And he stopped, his eyes widening. As her meaning sank in, Anna, are you saying? Anna nodded, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. Saying that come spring, there's going to be a little Maveridge running around this ranch. The transformation of Luke's face was beautiful. To witness, joy, wonder, and fierce protectiveness all warred for dominance before settling into an expression of pure love. A baby, he whispered, his hands coming to rest gently on her stomach. Our baby, are you happy? Anna asked, suddenly nervous. They'd never discussed children, though she'd caught him watching her with the neighbors' little ones when they visited. Happy? Luke laughed, lifting her off her feet to spin her around the kitchen. Anna, I'm over the moon. I'm terrified and thrilled, and he set her down carefully, as if she were made of spun glass. Are you feeling well? Do you need a rest? Should I ride for the doctor? Anna laughed at his sudden worry. Luke, I'm pregnant, not dying. Women have been having babies for centuries without needing to be wrapped in cotton. Not my woman, Luke said firmly. Not my wife carrying my child. possessive note in his voice made Anna's heart race. Even after months of marriage, Luke's protectiveness still had the power to make her feel cherished and desired. "Our child," Anna corrected softly. "Our child," Luke repeated, his voice full of wonder. He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away the tears of joy on her cheeks. "Anna, I love you. More than I ever thought possible. More than I knew. I was capable of loving again." "I love you too," Anna whispered, the words coming as naturally as breathing now. "Even when you're being impossibly overprotective." Luke's grin was unrepentant. "You haven't seen anything yet, Mrs. Maveridge. Wait until you're actually showing." That evening, they sat on the porch swing Luke had built for her birthday, watching the sun set over their land, truly their land now, secured not just by marriage, but by the love that had grown between them. Anna was curled against Luke's side, his arm around her shoulders and his free hand resting protectively over their unborn child. "Do you think she would have approved?" Anna asked quietly. The question that had been weighing on her mind since she'd realized she was carrying Luke's baby. Luke didn't need to ask who she meant. Bethany. He was quiet for a long moment, considering. She always said this place needed the sound of children's laughter. And Anna, ... He turned to look at her, his gray eyes serious. "She would have loved you. You'd both have the same generous heart, the same fierce loyalty to the people you care about." Anna felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. "I used to worry that I was trying to fill her place." "You could never fill her place," Luke said gently, and Anna's heart clenched until he continued. "Because you have your own place, your own corner of my heart that belongs only to you. Bethany will always be my first love, but Anna, you're my last love, my forever love." Tears spilled down Anna's cheeks again, and Luke kissed them away with infinite tenderness. Besides, he added with a grin that made him look years younger, "Bethany never could have handled that Mustang the way you did yesterday." Anna laughed through her tears, remembering how she'd marched into the corral when the stallion had gotten too aggressive with Luke, speaking to the horse in firm tones until he'd backed down. That horse just needed to know who was boss, Anna said primly. Just like his master, Luke teased, earning himself an elbow to the ribs as the stars came out above them. Anna reflected on the journey that had brought her here from the humiliation of the auction block to this moment of perfect contentment. She'd thought Luke was buying her that day. But the truth was far more complicated and beautiful. He'd bought her freedom, then given her his heart. And in return, she'd given him hers, along with the promise of new life and new love. "Luke," Anna said drowsily, lulled by the gentle motion of the swing and the warmth of his embrace. "When you bought me at that auction, did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" Luke's arms tightened around her. "No," he said honestly. "I was just trying to save you from Kincaid." "But Anna, ... He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "I think maybe fate had other plans for us all along." Anna smiled, one hand moving to rest over his, where it lay protective over their child. "I think you're right." In the distance, the Mustang whinnied softly, no longer wild but not yet fully tamed, much like the love between Anna and Luke. It had started rough and uncertain, but with patience and trust, it had grown into something beautiful and unbreakable. As Luke helped her up from the swing and led her inside to their shared bed, Anna marveled at how a single moment of desperation had led to a lifetime of joy. She'd gone to that auction expecting to lose everything. But instead, she'd found everything she'd never known she wanted. Love, partnership, a home, and now a child on the way, all because a cowboy named Luke Maveridge had seen a woman in need and decided to offer her not just money, but a wedding ring and a chance at happiness. It was, Anna thought, as Luke pulled her into his arms. It's the most beautiful love story she'd ever been part of. And the best part was, it was only the beginning.